Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's Fireside Chat with Gogoro. I'm James West, Head of Sustainable Technologies and Clean Energy at Evercore ISI, and I'm joined by my colleague, Chris McNally, who runs our Global Autos team. Chris and I recently launched coverage on the EV charging space, an area we see poised for massive growth as EV adoption and the build-out of the supporting infrastructure accelerates. And today we're going to talk about battery swapping for two-wheel vehicles. We're very pleased to have with us the company's founder, chairman, and CEO, Horace Luke, and the CFO Bruce Etkin. Gogoro has built the world's leading battery swapping network and best-in-class electric two-wheelers. Core enabling components of Gogoro's vehicles can be sold to other OEMs, allowing full interoperability within the network. The company's mission is to put smart, swappable electric power in reach of every urban rider in the world. The model has proven highly successful in Taiwan, and the company is poised to expand rapidly in China and India. Horace founded Gogoro in 2011 after serving as the Chief Innovation Officer at HTC, where he led all product strategy. He also worked at Microsoft, where he led product ideation and brand development for Xbox and a variety of other franchises. And he began his career at Nike, where he played a key role in the brand development of various Nike brands. Bruce joined the company from Amazon, where he was general manager of Amazon's device businesses in China. Prior to that, he spent more than 20 years at Intel in various executive leadership roles. So, gentlemen, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, James.
So maybe before we dig in too deep into the business, what's the high-level pitch for Gogoro? What was the opportunity that you saw in launching this business?
Well, I started Gogoro about 10 years ago with a very singular idea of making cities cleaner, smarter, healthier, and safer for our future generation. And one of the ways we can do this is to help cities transition to electric mobility. Given the climate crisis that we're facing today, we saw this as a huge opportunity to really not only make a difference, but also make a pretty big impact when it comes to building a sizable business. Most people don't realize that there are more urban commute miles written globally every day on two-wheelers than any other mode of transportation. More people depend on two-wheelers than any other type of vehicles in the world today. And, just take Taiwan, where we started our business. And the two largest market, China and India, which we just made an announcement to go into, combined, there are over 500 million two-wheelers on the road today. And just to give you some context, 80% of all commute miles done in India every day is done on two-wheelers. 60% of all gasoline spent every year annually is on two-wheelers. We saw this as a great opportunity to really capture, not only a really great business opportunity, but also make a big difference in these emerging countries. And at the heart of what we do today is, as you said, the most innovative part of what we offer today is a swap and go smart battery swapping infrastructure that has been really a real game changer for us here in Taiwan. And we're about to take all that into China, into India, and then we just made an announcement into Indonesia as well. So, the top three largest countries in the world with two-wheelers definitely now recognizing what we created is something they could use to transition their city to electric, to electric transportation.
Right. So maybe could we discuss, Source, the early days of the company? How did you scale in Taiwan? Did you intend to provide an electric vehicle, or was this more of the enabler to establish the battery swapping market?
Yeah, it started with a thesis of a subscription-based business model where, people would buy the hardware, in this case, a vehicle, and has a subscription to the energy use. So basically kind of similar to your old cell phone bill, right? The more you ride, the more you pay. The less you ride, maybe perhaps the more you pay per mile or per kilometer, but you pay a total bill of a little less than the high mileage user. The idea was really to create a really breakthrough vehicle that not only create the efficiency that we're talking about, but also the performance that, if you're asking somebody to transition to electric, you have to offer more. You can't offer less and expect to charge more or charge the same. So for us, we had the idea of swap and go, the idea of swapping batteries. But there, we couldn't find a vehicle. We couldn't find the motor to do that. We couldn't find the electronics. So one thing led to another. We built everything vertically. Today at Gogoro, we design our drive system. We manufacture our drive system. We design our own smart battery. We manufacture that with a fully automated robotic line that we have now in Taiwan, and we're now replicating that in other countries. And then also we build our own vehicle, design our own vehicle. We retail our own vehicle. We know how to sell it. We know how to tell the story. But perhaps the most interesting part about what we've built so far is not only the infrastructure and how we have over 10,000 cabinets or close to 10,000 cabinets in Taiwan, but the fact that we now have Yamaha, Suzuki Taiwan, we have PGO, we have Aeon, we have some of the largest vehicle makers in Taiwan as well as in India and in China now using the same swapping system. So think of us really as, the Android of EV. We're not necessarily building a one solution for everybody, but we're creating a platform that allows many solutions to satisfy many type of people and their usability they're looking for.
You guys sell, or do you own your hardware, the batteries and the vehicles?
Well, we have different type of revenue stream. In Taiwan, I'll just use Taiwan as an example, as a baseline first. Taiwan, we sell our vehicle to the customer at about similar price as a gas equivalent in the same performance, same size. But with that, the battery is not included. We actually own the asset of the battery and the infrastructure. So today, the stations are placed kind of like Coca-Cola machines or ATM machines at a distance of about every quarter mile or so, you'll find a station. More station than gas station themselves in major metropolitan cities. And the customer will then pay us a subscription fee to swap the battery. Customer never have to worry about how long the battery is going to last, how long it takes to charge the battery, or what if the battery, something goes wrong with the battery? Do they need to replace it, pay for a new one? Is it under warranty? They don't need to worry about that. It's really a pay as you go. They just pay a fee monthly and then they swap all they want. When there's a new battery, they just pick up a new battery and put it in the vehicle, right? So that's in Taiwan. So we sell the vehicle. And then in Taiwan also, we sell the enabling components. So the motor, the electronics, and some of the other key computer system equipment inside the vehicle that allows, think of us as kind of like the sled of think of it, all the EV guys making sleds and skateboards. We have ours, but ours is broken up components into motor drive system, into, wheels and tires, into electronics that connect it all, and into a security system to authenticate the battery. All of that then is sold to partners like Yamaha, Suzuki, and others, so they can build their own vehicle. So that's the Taiwan model. And what we did was we took some of that model and actually tailor-made it and shifted our business model a little bit as we go into China and India, where we enable our partner. Like in China, we're partnering with Yadi, the world's largest electric two-wheel maker. This year, I think they're coming in at close to 16 million vehicles in China, right? And Dachangjiang, which is China's largest gasoline two-wheel maker, they are probably doing about 3.5 million units this year. And combined over 20 million units and 50,000 retail outlets, we're going to enable them to build the vehicle. We're actually not selling vehicles into China, but we're selling the enabling technology for them to build vehicles. They're compatible with our swapping system. And in turn, we'll do a partnership with them where there's a local operating company that then buy the battery and buy the station from us. And we then license our platform. Think of it as almost like a software as a service, hardware as a service type of platform, where the local operator, the B2B business, is really using our AI server, our control system to manage and let people swap batteries autonomously around the city. And so the business model changes as we go into different city to make it a win-win situation. We let the partner do what they're really best at and let ourselves do what we're really good at. And then together we can go much faster than if we were pushing in and doing it ourselves. So that's the revenue model changes from different regions to different regions.
Okay, makes sense.
Our thesis there, James,
Sure.
sorry, our thesis there is really asset light expansion.
Right.
So, in Taiwan, we invested in the assets ourselves to prove out the business model. But as we go to China, as we go to India, big markets, lots of CapEx requirements. We want to share the burden of that. So we want to grow in an asset light model. but still take advantage of the recurring revenue model and still participate in the upside of that.
Okay. And then, so how should we think about the swapping subscription? How does that model work? If I'm a consumer, I'm a customer of yours, what am I paying, a monthly fee, a charging fee? How does the whole process kind of line up?
So it really depends on how much you use. So we got the extreme model, which is, you're going to be a guy that's going to be heavily dependent on a two-wheeler. So you pay a little more of a higher price per month, but you get an all-you-can-ride experience. And the longer you do a contract with us, so for example, in our case, we have a 1-year contract, we have a 2-year contract. If you do a contract with us, we'll per month it will cost a little bit less. Okay. But in general, if you do an all-you-can-ride plan, it will beat gas any day of the month, right? It will be cheaper per mile or per kilometer written than any other type of fuel you can get. All the way down to pay a minimal fee, and then you get a small bundle of packet. In this case, we get about, in the US is, the equivalent of 60 miles, or in the East here, we use kilometers, so it's about 100 kilometer. And you pay a very small fee, like a $10 per month entry fee. And then you get a little bundle. Remember when the old days of like SMS, you get X amount of SMS, and then overage you pay a little bit more. And the more you pay up front, the less you pay per SMS. Same thing here. So we have different plans ranging from $10 to then, $15 to $20, et cetera, where you can buy the pre-bundle a little bit more up front, and then the overage is a little less per kilometer. And so we designed a plan to have somebody, basically let the consumer pick where they're comfortable at, and then land it at the place that they're going to use the vehicle, in the way they want to use it. But in general, the way we look at it is, the vehicle costs about the same as the equivalent in gas. The per kilometer, per mile written, plus the maintenance it takes to really do the gas vehicle should be no more than what you're paying per mile or per kilometer on swapping batteries. And if we can draw that, balance between the two, then we can convince a customer to transition to electric, which we have done really, I would say done a really good job in Taiwan. When we started in Taiwan, electric two-wheelers was less than 1% of the overall market. So in comparison, Tesla today is about 3.5%, 3.4% of the US market, right, in automotive. We're today in Taiwan, after about 5.5, 6 years, we grew that market share to 10%. In a place like Taipei, where I am today, last month we clocked in at about 24%. So 1 out of every 4 vehicles sold was actually an electric vehicle. And in the electrical vehicle space, or electric two-wheeler space, us and our partner, Yamaha, Suzuki, et cetera, Aon, PGO, combined, we have 95% market share. So battery swap is the only way people are really, really signing up to transition to electric, because in a city like Taipei, where you have thousands of people living on top of each other, really a traditional plug-in, tethered plug-in model just doesn't work. You don't have a place to park. It's too, today was 30 degrees here, so it's close to 80 degrees outside. You're not going to stand outside for half an hour and wait for your vehicle to charge. We do it in seconds. You plop the battery in, it calculates, how much you use, how much we should charge you, and then a selected set of batteries then popped out to you, put it in the trunk, and off you go in about 10 seconds or so. So, we really have proven that battery swapping in Taiwan, at least, is really, really been successful and successfully adopted. We today have about, in just 6 years, we have about 420,000 customers on our network today, growing very quickly.
Boris, that's fascinating in terms of a customer value. Maybe we could talk a little bit about the tech behind the scenes, like sort of maybe traditional EV type math. How large are the batteries that are being swapped? How much range do you get? And also, what type of batteries? You said you're doing some yourself. Probably investors would be curious what type of chemistries you're using, things like that.
Okay, we use batteries from Panasonic, from SDI and LG. They are the NCM batteries, same as the ones in the Tesla. We're on a 3rd generation battery. The battery form factor did not change. The connector didn't change, the interface didn't change. Forward and backward compatibility on the network is really important to us. So the first vehicle we sold in 2015 can use the latest station as well as the latest battery that we just deployed yesterday. And same and vice versa. The brand new vehicle can pick up the oldest battery on the network and it will just work. Okay. Now today we use the 21700 cell inside our battery. The total capacity 1.7 kilowatt hour. And depending on what class of vehicle you really have, if you have a 100cc, 125cc type vehicle, 150cc vehicle, we throw 2 batteries in there. So the 2 batteries combined run at about 86 volt or so. So it's, it's enough to go about 60 miles an hour, close to 60 miles an hour. A range of, depending on, honestly, how many cheeseburgers you eat and how fast you squeeze your throttle. It really depends, on how you ride it. But we see people coming in about every 3.5 days or so.
Every 3.5 days.
3.5 days on a normal usage of maybe about, 15 to 20 kilometer a day. So, you do the math there about, 10 miles or so. That's daily commute, is urban commutes. It's designed for urban commutes. Now for super lightweight vehicle, we have 2 types. The one that we do in Taiwan is about 50cc. So they go about 50 kilometer an hour or about 30 miles an hour or so. And then in China, we do what we call the e-bike version. So if you've been to China, you've seen a lot of these smaller, lightweight, single person. They kind of look like a moped, but they're electrified. There's about 270 million of those in China today. They're looking to be, kind of churn over and retired into these newer type of vehicles, more certified vehicle and regulated vehicle in the next 3 to 5 years. Then that's the biggest opportunity we see ahead of us there. The battery tech is, like I said, the battery form factor didn't change. We spent a lot of time on battery management system, both inside the battery for safety and efficiency, as well as the AI and machine learning system, the cloud that controls it all. Today, station plops in just like you would with an ATM machine. You get your local utility to get you the power you're looking for. Depending on the size of the station, it's really just like think of it as a big refrigerator, right? You plop it there, and then with the password, it just synchronizes with our server, authenticates, and then the machine's ready to go in an hour or so. And people come up and it populates on our map on our app, and then people just go and access it. We have now almost 10,000 stations around Taiwan, in 2,100 locations or so. In the major cities, we deploy very, very quickly, based on what we see as people's circle of living circles and usability. Think of our deployment as unlike other infrastructure you can think of. So if you're 5G, you're going to deploy multiple billions of dollars before the first phone gets turned on to use 5G. We're different. We started Taipei with about 31 stations. And then quickly when we sell vehicle, and then now with those stations, then we have some batteries that are populated. Batteries that we call kind of rack batteries. And then you've got the road batteries. Road batteries are the batteries that go in the vehicle. The rack batteries are the ones charged and ready for a swap. And remember I said 3.5 days or so? So when you swap out a battery, I don't see you for another 3.5 days. During those 3.5 days, the same slot can now satisfy and turn over our customer. The more customer I can turn over in that slot, the higher efficiency the network is going to be. What we do is our server then look at how people use it, what energy is being used, where they kind of swap, and then we triangulate and figure out where we need to put the next station and how many batteries we have to deploy on the rack side. Now and not all that, we can turn on a city with, just a couple $1 million. Is not a lot at all. Now, when it comes to the Bruce's point, where the capital comes in is really around the batteries that are in the vehicle. Now, remember, if I don't sell vehicle, I don't deploy battery. So that's kind of more like a just-in-time, CapEx deployment on the network. So the whole thing is very controllable. And that's one of the reasons I think, as we talk to our partners in China and India, we're working with Hero Motor Corp, the world's largest gasoline two-wheel maker. They have, on top of India, they have 39 other countries. There are 40 countries in total in coverage. They just celebrated their 100 millionth vehicle sold, with the next 100 millionth targeting in 7 years, mainly focused around new energy, swappable batteries or fast charging batteries. And we're about to go into India next year, taking our model and taking our stations into that. And again, the deployment is super automated, and there's really nobody managing it. Imagine 2,000 gas stations. Right? How many people would that be? That's a lot of OpEx. Our guys, our customer, just come up to a station, plop the battery in, calculates, new battery pop out, off they go. They get a monthly bill. In some situation they pay per swap. Some situation they tally it up, in the end of the month they do a post-pay kind of scenario and post-pay the bill.
Or so I could just do two follow-ups. I mean, the first on the size of that e-bike market in China. It sounds like this is sort of a $1,000 purchase, depending upon the use, it would be $10 to $40 per month for probably what's 90% of mobility needs. How big do you think that market is per year in terms of annual sales?
So there are two types of markets in China today. There's what you just described, about $1,000 vehicle, and that's about 100cc, 125cc vehicle, okay? And that's a smaller market in China. It's small. It's about 10% of the overall market. In the rural area, not in urban city, probably a little higher, but in urban cities, lower than that, okay? Mm-hmm. The bulk of the market is around what we call the e-bike market. The e-bike market doesn't go very fast. It goes about 25 miles, not even 25 miles an hour, about 15, 17 miles an hour, right? Single battery. When we plop one in, we can go about 130 kilometer on a range. And those e-bikes, the size of the market is gigantic. Today, in China alone, there's 325 million two-wheelers, 70 million sold per year. 270 million needs to be retired in the next 3 to 5 years. That's the one I'm talking about. The bulk of the market is in those light bikes. We just launched one with Yadi. They're selling it for 3,499 renminbi. That's about a little less than $500, or right around $500 US. It's a vehicle that is very affordable. And then the way we target the market is, so a swapping battery, instead of buying the battery, you're now paying it per month, and then that plus your energy bill that it might have taken for you to charge it at the parking lot. Instead, you just swap at one of our station with a much more capable battery, with no range anxiety, because you just keep going. You don't have to worry about how when your battery runs out of juice, how long would it take to charge that battery, right?
And is this
you just go up to one station.
Is this typically like a first time purchase? Is this your maybe you don't own a car, or is this you own a car but this is handling 80% of your local needs?
Different market, different needs. In Taiwan, definitely people have a car, but they also have a two-wheeler because it's much more convenient to park and much more convenient to get around. It's much quicker through traffic. Okay, so if you don't have your kids with you, or if you don't have your wife with you, you take your two-wheeler and you zip along. In China, it's a little different. It's a dominant mode of transportation for them. It is a vehicle that they buy a new one every 3 to 5 years, and it's like I said, it's the essential part of their everyday life. Now, that said, they're always going to be looking for safer, better scenarios. The number one reason why they replace a vehicle is because the battery go dead, not because the vehicle go dead. And the battery costs just as much as the vehicle sometimes. So they just buy a brand new vehicle. In our particular case, you don't buy the battery, so you just keep going on the vehicle. That's those are the two usability. In of course in India, you're talking about a vehicle that rides a whole bunch of people on it, like Cirque du Soleil. I mean, I've seen a family of 6 people on a two-wheeler before. It's not unheard of. In Gogoro, we've seen 2, 3, 4 people on it. It's really it's a tool of commute for these guys. Is essential.
What's the experience if I'm pulling up with my two-wheeler and I'm used to maybe charging versus swapping. What's the difference in the experience that I have from battery swapping versus charging? I assume it's massively different, but I'd love to hear just kind of the breakdown from a customer perspective.
Yeah, in Taiwan there was no electric two-wheeler. There was no penetration before because the usability was terrible. There was no place to
Right.
charge it. So, as the government pushed for electrification, we were right there with a both chicken and egg solution, right? We solved it with both the infrastructure solution and also as well as, the vehicle solution and performance solution, usability solution. So together it worked and it kind of took off. In China, it's different. China is a conversion business. So, China has, like I said, 270 million electric e-bikes today, electric two-wheelers today. Those two-wheelers are using very, low-cost charger, low-cost battery, sometimes even lead-acid batteries. They're very environmentally damaging. So the government is motivated to push them towards something that's more environmentally friendly, and at the same time pushing for safety. So as you imagine, if you're buying a charger, you got one that's $10, you got one that's $30. What are you going to go? You're going to go $10 one, right? And so we find these vehicles lighting up on fire in people's apartments, lighting up on fire in the parking lot. Well, we're very different. One of our unit that you see behind my shoulder here, that can satisfy hundreds of vehicles. Now, if you put you put in the same parking spot, the same surface area as a parking spot, if I put 4 units there, we're talking, over 1,000 customers that can actually rely on that one particular setup to now refuel, right? So now you can push all the charging, not only on a industrial grade, really safe and monitored charging solution, but also push it up against a corner of a building. So should there be any issue, it's really isolated instead of scatter all through your parking lot like a fire pit right underneath your apartment building. So we see this as a huge opportunity as cities are converting to electric, demanding more power out of the battery, but yet it needs it safer. And that's kind of where we come in, limiting range anxiety, providing safety, providing lower cost of entry for the customer, right? And all those are I would say, and then just the wait time of charging. No matter how fast you charge, 20 minute for, let's say 20 minute for 60, 70%. Not only does that take a lot of electronics to do, everybody goes home and everybody goes to work at about the same time. Grid can't take that. Our station can charge a battery, hold it, or just hold the empty battery and wait for the right time to charge. We just made an announcement with Taipower, which is Taiwan's largest utility company, along with Italians and LX, to do 2 things. Number one, the station you see now, it was designed as bi-directional ready. So now we can not only take the energy and store it, but we can actually push it back to the grid when the grid needs it. So we can be a really good citizen inside the city as we deploy all these batteries. The second thing we do is instant demand response. So let's say, they're looking at the city, they're balancing at 60 hertz. All of a sudden, they say, hey, you know what? We're going to have a peak in the next half an hour. Somebody needs to shut down. Well, factories can't shut down. The shopping mall can't shut down. We can. Our stations are on demand. We actually time our battery and charge the battery only when needed to, and only at the time in which the customer is ready for pickup. So we can, throughout that cycle, time it. And that's also other businesses that we're bringing up as well. As you think about how much, we have about 1.4 gigawatt hour batteries in Taiwan today. A lot of them is on the road with the customer. Some of us on the rack. That rack battery can actually serve not only as energy storage, but also at the same time, help balance the grid at 60 hertz as well. So we're doing a lot with the government. We're doing a lot as we bring our idea to the city. And going back to my thesis, I just want to make cities, cleaner and smarter and healthier for the future generation. And the electric mobility happens to be a very large part of that. But we're also taking energy and innovating on energy and energy usage itself too, as well.
I wanted to go back to something, Horace, that you mentioned earlier, safety. How do you think about safety in kind of product design and the rollout of your battery systems? Because it's obviously something that's top of mind for EV owners and certainly cities as well. So I believe you guys have a remarkable safety record with your batteries, but is that first and foremost kind of how these are designed?
Well, it's designed from the very inside of the battery pack itself.
Okay.
So our battery pack can withstand about 10 tons of crush.
Okay.
The battery can actually take quite a beating. When a battery cell explodes, and battery cells inevitably, a very small percentage of it will, you contain a lot of energy. And sometimes there's a micro short and the CID does open and there's a lot of hot gas that comes out. Our particular design can control that hot gas from not, I would say, proliferating or propagating to the other cells. So our battery pack, although, one cell, we have 96 cells inside, although one cell can go, is not going to be like a EV where the whole car lights up. Our battery is able to suffocate that cell and actually, control it. Now, that said, in the event it couldn't, again, these stations, the batteries are isolated from each other. You can see the slots, they're different from each other. And there are metal separators between each one. And they're designed to not basically catch from one battery to another battery. So we take safety very, very seriously from the battery pack itself. We have all sorts of monitoring system inside the battery. Think of the battery really almost like a smartphone without a screen. We got wireless connectivity between the station and the battery, and then the vehicle to the battery. We have the battery itself has a lot of watchdog system in it for over voltage, for over amperage, discharge, overcharge, et cetera, et cetera. Now take that to the station level. And the station also not only does it have industrial grade charger, but it's also being monitored real time in our operating center. And our operating center has a system that looks out for every battery on the grid. If its temperature is rising in an abnormal way, we know it. A ticket is automatically issued to one of my operators who has a handset, who has a smartphone, gets a ticket, rushes to the station, makes sure nothing is wrong, and then come back. And that fully automated system is why we're able to scale the speed that we have done. And it's, it took a lot of effort. It took about a couple of years of really, and I keep joking, I said, Taiwan is my pilot. Taiwan itself, the island, is my pilot program with, hundreds of thousands of customers all using it real time. And then we keep adding functionality and feature onto the grid. So that now when I light up, I just lit up Hangzhou, all of the learnings I did in Taiwan applies instantly. And then when I light up India, all of the learnings I've done in China also adds on top of that. And it just accumulates, that knowledge just accumulates on this management of this network that improves on safety. So we have a lot of watchdog system that monitors every battery, the temperature, the discharge, the bugs that came in from the way that the customer was using it, all being logged and being monitored real time.
Or Horace, maybe if I can ask about data. I mean, we've talked about how sort of, you're addressing a mobility 1.0 moving to a 2.0 type solution. But if I think 5 years out, you're going to have such a large network with customers that may theoretically be unbanked, and you'll have the mobility data of, where they're going and their sort of, daily patterns. Is there a way to monetize, that data and work with other data providers, for, again, what may be sort of an unbanked and untracked, parts of China and India?
Absolutely. But we got to be careful with data, right? We take privacy very, very carefully and very, very seriously. But you're absolutely right, Chris. There's, through that usability, we know a couple things. Number one thing we know is, just our asset itself, how our assets being moved, which battery goes where, and where customers are swapping. That's a fundamental in just managing our network itself. But through that, we also know how the customer is using it, how many kilometers they're riding per day, right? Whether or not they they flip a turn signal when they make a turn. If they keep making right-hand turn without a turn signal, we know it. And if they do it and they want to share that data with, let's say, an insurance company, a great example is we just launched with one of Taiwan's largest insurance company, the world's first blockchain secured usage-based insurance. And so your data is now being able to share with your insurance company so that you can save on insurance, right? We're doing that real time on our network today. And that is one great example as to how we're using that. Now, of course, there are many other relation-based, financial based, think of our vehicle right now. The vehicle, we're able to offer loans to our customer at very, very low rates. And one of the reasons why our lending partner is willing to do that is because we have literally almost no default on the loan. If you don't pay, the vehicle is collateralized and we can lock your batteries. So the customer comes in, they didn't pay their bill. The first thing we do is make sure the vehicle goes really, really slow, right? So they can crawl to the bank if they want to, crawl to the ATM if they want to. But a couple more times, we lock that battery. We make sure that you go pay. And so, financing is also another thing that we're working on today with our lenders, lending partners. But there are many other, you can imagine, there are many other data-based products that we're building and monetizing.
And any advertising right now? I mean, either through the stalls or obviously, flashing to the app, things like that.
We do, but only on I would say on a trial basis at the moment. The pool of customer in Taiwan, 400,000 is not big enough yet. But if you're talking about 4 million, then it's really meaningful. But between 400,000 to 4 million is where we're going to get our technology right? And a lot of that we need to balance that and make sure that the customer is not bombarded with all these commercials that they feel like they might not want to be ticking that on their daily commute. But there's certainly a lot of conversations internally about now we have a captive audience. We know where they go. There are going to be other people that are interested in them going to other places as well, right? And we have a great opportunity because one thing we know is that our customer has a way to get around. They have a two-wheeler underneath the butt, and that's a great way for us to work with advertisers to promote location-based services.
Chris, one simple thing we do today with data is if a rider shows up at a station that just because of traffic patterns is kind of overutilized at that point in time, and so may not have as many full batteries as we know it'll need later in the day, we can send someone to a station that's maybe 500 meters away and offer them a small discount. And we've seen our in-house ability to shift traffic patterns, if you will. And so, if you think about the future and instead of shifting them to a lower cost station of ours that's half a kilometer away, you shift them to a Starbucks or a McDonald's or a 7-Eleven or whatever it is, where there also happens to be a station and, you swap a battery and you buy a coffee's half off kind of stuff. There's a lot of things that we're kind of working on that could have massive opportunities.
It's amazing.
There's and Bruce, I want to be cognizant of your time because we told you 45 minutes and we're starting to get there. But we have about a million other questions too. But I guess one of the most pressing is the expansion into China and India and how you're pursuing that. Do you have partners already to help you get into those markets? What's the game plan?
Sure. Like I said, we're in China. We just launched in Hangzhou with Yadi and Dachangjiang. Yadi is the world's largest electric two-wheeler. Dachangjiang is China's largest two-wheel maker. That, they're together creating a local battery swapping operating company that uses our technology, uses our batteries. And in turn, every month, every subscriber pays us a fee. For not only buying our hardware, but also paying us a license fee to use our network as our system. As Bruce said, that way we get to enjoy the scaling of the network as well. So that's a great launch. And then we're now moving into Wuxi, the second city, and then quickly you'll see probably another half a dozen next year, which we're really excited about, and we're scaling into those markets. India, we're working with Hero, the world's largest two-wheel maker. They're in 40 countries, including India. In India, they have a 37% market share. They're the largest player in India today. And they're committed to go kind of transform themselves to electric, because the government is pushing hard for it. And the crowd is younger, the population is young, and they're educated, and they're really eager to get on the next thing. We also in Indonesia just announced our partnership with GoTo and Gojek. Gojek and Tokopedia merged together to create GoTo. And they are the largest ride-hailing company and the logistics company in Indonesia, with 2 million two-wheel riders on their network. They've made a commitment to electrify by 2030 their entire fleet of 2 million plus riders. We just announced a launch in Indonesia, along with Gojek and Pertamina, Indonesia's largest gas station, to place our station, in turn turning their gas station into now energy station. And then we're going to do a pilot and quickly scale that pilot to 5,000 vehicles together. So it's a pretty exciting time. This decade is where people are going to start looking at electric mobility, as you guys probably are well aware. And where there's a big untapped market in two-wheelers, really underserved, especially around the eastern hemisphere of this planet, that I would say a lot of Western investors are not really not educated, nor are they aware of at the moment. But if you think about how many two-wheelers are sold annually, we're talking about, if you talk about China and India alone, is 64 million units. Four-wheeler is only 80 million. I mean, the amount of riders and amount of customers we get on this is phenomenal, especially because we're based on, we build our business model on a subscription business model, where accumulating customers is the most important thing for us. And if you think about that market and the players that we're now working with, the large vehicle makers, they have their choices. I mean, I'm really proud of the fact that I'm working with some of the top vehicle makers in the world, because at their scale, the second they say they want to actually electrify, or the second they say they want to be, they're interested in battery swapping, there are people coming in the front door, the back door, the side window, all trying to make an offer. And to be honest with you, we went through 18 months of due diligence with every one of these partners, financial due diligence, the usability due diligence, the technology due diligence, and like you said, James, safety due diligence. Nobody wants to be investing in a network that doesn't have efficiency, doesn't have a break-even point, doesn't have the safety and the collaboration we can have with the local government. All of that added up equal to 18 months later, they all signed up. They all signed up to battery swapping, but most important, they signed up to Gogoro. And that's something that we're just at the cusp of, I believe, electric mobility for the masses. And there's a whole hemisphere. You can tell from my accent, I grew up in the United States. I only came back to Asia really just to, build smartphones and smart devices. And I saw this opportunity in Asia. There's a huge, massive unserved need. And as the world talk about electrification of mobility, there's a lot of great cars makers out there, a lot of great infrastructure and charging pole makers, right? The Charge Point, the EV Box, the EV Go, all those guys. But STEM. But the interesting thing is you can name a lot of players in that space. But when you're talking about electric two-wheelers with battery swapping, I bet you probably can't name another one. There's some copycats and there's some quick followers, but really nobody has the sophistication that we have actually built on our network. And I think that's a huge opportunity for us to really take advantage of the biggest crisis facing us, right? The climate crisis. And I've always said to my team, and I always said to all the partners we have, with the biggest crisis comes the biggest opportunity. And if we can serve that crisis right, then we have created a great business opportunity. And in this particular case, we're building a subscriber-based business that are super sticky, that's accumulating over time. And quite honestly, if you think about where we are today over the last 6 years, the cohort hasn't dropped off. The same guy, actually, really funny today, we just deployed a station at the very highest mountain of Taiwan and up in a really high elevation. And our first customer with the vehicle 00001, I have 0002. I sold the first one to Davey, and Davey just rode his vehicle to the top of the mountain. Super exciting time for electric mobility because, with battery swapping, you don't have all the traditional kind of the what if scenario of owning electric. What if you ran out of battery? What if you had to, your wife was waiting for you and you can't wait for charge? What if the battery, was defective or, ran out? There's a lot of what ifs that, I would say our system has been able to solve.
So, Horace, how do you think about scaling from here and supply chain partners? And I mean, you're at this point where the growth should be phenomenal, but you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. You don't want to have supply chain disruptions. So how do you think about building the business in this kind of exponential growth time period?
Yeah, it's a great question, James. We built a business, kind of doing everything vertically. We had to build our own battery. I even nerded out on tires. The compound on tires, the tread pattern to get the maximum amount of efficiency and grip.
Right.
We did everything. We did the station. We did the charger in the station. But, us now having all that IP is great. But as you said, as we scale, we got to be able to have a partner that can scale with us. And we got to focus on things that we're really great at: technology, market development, partnership, customer experience, right? All of that other stuff that really is to me is the what we're really great at, the higher value part of our business. And then what we have done is we partner with the world's largest electronic manufacturer, Foxconn. We have a strategic partnership, and basically they're going to take our technology and now help us manufacture in Southeast Asia, help us manufacture in China, help us manufacture in India, where they have facility and they on their payroll is 1 million operator that are manufacturing 40% of the world's electronics today. I couldn't be more proud of the partnership I have with Foxconn because now I don't have to worry about the supply side. I just need to worry about how to actually go run as fast as I can to spread this network of swapping stations as many places and as many locations as I can. So it's our partnership with Foxconn is going to enable us to do that. And as you think about the kind of even more upstream, the battery cell itself, we see battery cell as like I mentioned before, we use multiple sources for batteries today. What was important to us is the customer experience. As long as a battery cell is safe, is durable, it's reasonably be affordable, where our economics can work, I would choose that cell. And we today, through the scale that we have built, we have a lot to choose from. And we're continuing to work with all our partners to develop the battery cell to be more suitable for two-wheelers. What most people don't realize is that two-wheeler, the demand on battery and the demand on technology is much higher than that in four-wheeler. Ironic, but it's true. You hear a four-wheeler going 0 to 100 kilometer an hour in 2 seconds, 3 seconds, right? But the output on that battery is not as much as if you put 4 people on a two-wheeler trying to climb a mountain. Our battery is tiny, right? And the demand on that battery is extreme. And we have a really great team working on those technology, being able to then, provide that energy and by the same time, making sure the battery can last the cycles that it is expected to last on our network. We today on our network is operating at about somewhere in the, if you think about the network side, EBITDA margin at about mid 40%, low to mid 40%. With it climbing, and once we get to efficiency, probably about 60 something percent, EBITDA margin. That's a great business to be had. The reason why we're able to do that is because the operational cost on this network is really low. The only variable that I have really is renting the space for as many stations as I can. In most cases, I get really low rent because, as Bruce said, I bring people to the storefront because they're swapping at the supermarket. People love us. The supermarket plays our stations all the time. And electricity. Those are really the two only variable costs I have in the OpEx side. Of course, the asset side, as we prove our case in Taiwan, we have to carry all the asset ourselves. But as we expand to other countries, we're going to actually rely on a, kind of partner-driven, kind of less asset kind of way, so that we can actually enter into this market and not be at risk of exposing ourselves to all this capex. We'll partner with a partner to deploy those stations.
Last question for me, Horace. I promise I'll let you go. I know we've gone over the time I told you. What are the big milestones we should be watching for 2022, 2023? How should we be checking your progress?
I'll start, and maybe Bruce can put some KPIs in. He's really great at putting companies' KPIs together. We worked 10 years to get to where we are today.
Yeah.
We have announced a merger with a SPAC named Poema, and that's really the starting line for us to get the resources, kind of act and behave and have the transparency of a publicly traded company. And then also at the same time, be able to then start building out, even bigger and stronger teams around the world. And as you think about where we are in 2021, we announced our partnerships in those, in China, in India, and in Indonesia, and also with Foxconn. 2022 is really about us, being able to deploy successfully in China and starting to ramp awareness. I wouldn't see a big volume gain in China yet, because China's, you have to kind of be aware of China's speed. China's speed comes instantaneously. When it works, it comes really fast. And you got to get everything right before you go do that, or else everything will fall apart. So 2022 is really about us building out the team in China, about us building a couple of cities, demonstrate it, and then start franchising it. And so 2023, 24, you'll see a steep ramp in China. India is going to launch in 2022, probably closer to the back half of 2022. We're working with Hero on that, and probably you'll see New Delhi as the first pilot. You'll see a pilot and some people using our vehicles in Indonesia, and we're going to start working with Gojek to figure out how to actually electrify Indonesia together. And then, as Bruce said, there's many other products that are kind of, you saw us announcing our demand response. You saw us, working with the grid to do bidirectional. There are a lot of other things I'm working on today with our team that uses our battery. Swapping for mobility is one thing. Yes, it's a huge market for us. Think of us as really a AA battery. The C battery, the D battery. Now we got the Gogoro battery. You can power a lot of things that need energy. Energy is at the center of all human innovation. I've been fortunate enough to work at Microsoft for 10 years. I was one of the early founders of Xbox. I was one of the early founders of Windows XP. Actually, I named Windows XP and worked on branding as well. I know I turned 50 already. I don't look 50 in Zoom, but I turned 50 already. And then, I was able, I was fortunate enough to really get in front of mobility, when it comes to smartphone mobility. I worked at HTC, where I built the world's first 6 Android phones. Saw the company went from a white label company to one of the biggest brand. If you lived in the US, you probably used some of my phones I designed with T-Mobile, My Touch, or the Droid with Verizon, and a number of other devices, that we've built. And I just see this great opportunity that, the world is going to need new fuel that is cleaner, that is smarter, that is electric. But yet there's a huge infrastructure challenge and a huge market need in the East. And that's what we're here to tap into. So that said, I did most of the talking, but Bruce, do you want to set some KPIs for us?
No, I think Horace did a great job. I think it's about expansion. I think it's about opening up new markets and new opportunities really for 2022. If you look into our financials, James, which, we've published, you'll see that up until now, we've been largely reliant on Taiwan as a source of our revenue. That'll continue to be the case in 2022. 90% of all revenue will come from Taiwan, and we do hope to continue to grow and believe we will continue to grow the Taiwan market, both from the standpoint of the accumulating subscribers that Horace mentioned. We're at a little bit over 400 now. We'll clearly go to more than 500,000 riders by the end of next year. And so then about 10% of our revenue will come from hardware sales into China. And then out into 23 and out into 24 is when those international markets start to take on a bigger percentage of our overall revenues. It's about 2024 where we go 50-50 Taiwan revenue, international revenue, and then eventually China becomes our largest market in the 24 timeframe. So, in terms of the revenue split, that's how you can think about it. But really, it's about opening up new markets because eventually the scale is there. Eventually, the scale will follow. We believe we've perfected this business model in Taiwan, and we've got the right people, the right partners, the right technology, the right products. And so we're just super excited to take it and see what we can do in China and India with our partners.
And the right timing, Bruce. Also the right timing. I think the world is ready for electrification. And I've always said, if you're too early, you're going to burn a lot of cash. You're too late, somebody already did it. And we've been working on this for the last several years, kind of using Taiwan to prove out and develop our technology. And then, the world is, buzzing about, electrification of mobility. And, and I think that's everybody's all eyes on it. All eyes are ready to go turn this, this planet to be a cleaner way of getting around. So we're definitely satisfying you can call it a big market with very, not a lot of sophisticated players in at the moment.
Well, you guys sound excited, and you're certainly, we think, hitting the market at the right time. So, Horace, Bruce, thanks so much for your time this morning or evening for you guys. I know you're probably ready to get off and wind down for the night. But thanks for joining us from both myself and Chris, and we look forward to watching your progress and talking again soon.
Yeah, thanks, James. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having us on.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.